few days off here. You know how that goes. Okay, Kitty Capone. Hope you guys are doing really well. Hope you're having a good evening. If you're watching this in the evening, hope you're having a good day if it's watching in the day. But, oh, I've had some busy days here, watching my grandkids and just going and doing things and, that kind of stuff and taking care of things, how it goes. uh, Dealing with family stuff, hearing about family stuff, all that kind of stuff. But it's been all right. Um, but tonight, I kind of wanted to talk about something that after I put my other video up about working mom versus stay-at-home mom, I had a few messages from some younger girls, younger women, I should say, who are in their 20s, 30s, and they're talking about how they don't really want to have it all, uh, as women have been, calling it. Yeah, have it all: the job, the career, the husband, the family, the kids, the whole bit. A lot of them have said that it didn't turn out to be so great after all. That it's caused them an awful lot of stress in their life in many areas, in many ways, and I don't know. I had to think a lot about this because there are a lot of things that have been on my mind over time that, well, that I've thought about concerning the feminist movement, concerning what has happened with women. And I gotta say, I understand where these women are coming from, these younger women, these young girls, in that I think a lot of the stuff that we chose to do backfired, or some of it anyway, backfired, in the sense that, number one, most women I know that are working women who are married or with a partner, they still tend to have to do the majority of stuff, regarding the family, the household, the cleaning, the cooking, the laundry, the stuff for your care for the kids, all that. They still tend to have to do the majority of it. And I want you guys to think about this. Back in the days when men went out to work and the woman stayed home, took care of the home, the family. Okay, they get married, they decide they want a family. Well, the woman, she gets pregnant, she has the baby, she's at home taking care of herself, the home. The husband is out there doing his job. Well, he decides he wants a child. Well, guess what? Um, it's not him who has to get pregnant. It's not him who has to carry that child for 9 months. It's not him who has to give birth. It's not him who has to recuperate from having that child. It's not him who had to go through any of that back in those days. He says, oh, let's have children. He goes off to his job. She stays home and does her job. And yes, taking care of a household is a job. Taking care of children is a job. It is not some luxury like some idiots out there think that staying home is, oh, you don't work? Well, those people are fools. I'm sorry, there's no other words for them. But you got to think of it that way. I mean, not only now, okay, a woman working in a relationship with the man, husband, whatever, now he doesn't have to worry about carrying the load, the burden of the full responsibility of the financial end of it. So he's got the woman working too. So what we've actually done is made it much easier for men when we already had it hard enough as it was before, just fighting for our rights and our, to be able to work if we wanted to, pregnant or not, to be able to, take care of ourselves, what have you. But in the same token, we made it much easier for men. Again, now uh, if you're in a relationship and you decide to have a child, well, if you're the woman having to go to work too, well, I don't know about you ladies, but when I was pregnant, it was not an easy journey. I had severe morning sickness. In my first pregnancy, I got pneumonia. I got, my kidneys actually stopped working. And I was young. When I got pregnant, they said, oh, it's going to be a breeze, you're young, you're healthy, no problems. Well, that didn't turn out to be the truth. or the case rather. And had I been having to work in order to for my then husband and I uh, to survive the way we were surviving with two income, if we had two incomes, we would have been sunk. Luckily, I got to be a stay-at-home mom with all my children, and I had five of them. But I think about it now, if I'd had to, if I would have had to work, um, it would have been a disaster. Same with my last child. I was very sick. I had morning sickness so severely that I was literally in bed the first 3 months, practically with a pan next to me, hoping not to throw everything up. And then at the end of the last trimester, my uterine ligament tore. So I was in such severe pain that they actually had to put me on morphine, which I did not want to do because I was pregnant. But the pain was so unbearable, I wanted to die. So they had to have me on morphine. So the last 3 months of my pregnancy, I was on and off morphine as well as bedridden. So if I'd had to work, we would have been sunk. So what I'm getting at is that, um, getting pregnant and having a child now, we say, oh, we've come a long way, we can do this, we can do that, we have it all. Well, you know what, ladies? In my view, we made it much harder on ourselves by saying, well, we can do it all. But the problem is, ladies, men didn't have to do it all. While they were out working, they had the woman at home taking care of the house, doing the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, taking care of the children. If the children were sick, they were there for them. They didn't have to rush home and take care of that child or go pick them up from school or take him to the doctor. The woman did it. So they had it made. So uh, they had it made in the sense that they didn't have to worry about all that. Okay, there was somebody to do all of that. Well, now, if you have to work or just want to work, I see it kind of as a backfire, like, oh, great. Okay, now not only do I have to work, because a lot of men today, let's face it, a lot of men today, they expect a woman to work if they're, married to them or living with them. They expect it. And I think to myself, I am so lucky. I feel so lucky and so grateful that I was able to stay home with my children. Now, after my first marriage ended, I was very young, and I was a divorced single mom for 5 years, and that's when I decided I would never ever have children again if I had to go to work, because for me personally, this is me now. Everybody has their opinions, but for me personally, it devastated me. It broke my heart to have to leave my child. Every morning that I dropped him off, it just broke my heart, and especially those mornings when he would cry, please, Mommy, don't go, because he was only 2 at the time when I got divorced. Um, it devastated me. I just thought, I knew I would never have children again if I had to leave them. That's me. I liked being at home with my kids. I liked taking care of my kids and my household. And so I knew I would never do that again. So my second husband agreed staying at home was great because his first child was raised in daycare. He did not want that again. Okay, that was just his view. So we agreed that I would be a stay-at-home mom. So I am very grateful that for my next 4 children that I had, I was able to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. I took care of the kids, the household, what have you. He took care of the job, the money, earning the money rather, what have you. Um, but we did not have a relationship where he was the one, like nowadays I hear men, what I hear is that, that's my money, this is my money, that's your money, this is my, no, we did not have that kind of relationship. What he earned was our money. It was the family's money. There was none of that, having to check and see if I could, go to the store and buy something. That didn't occur, and I have to give him credit for that. Whatever he made, it went in the bank, and whatever I needed to buy, I bought. Whatever I needed to spend to get, I did. It was just our money. So I was very fortunate in that way. Um, but what I see now is I don't see how a woman, I'll be honest with you, I don't see how a woman feels that she really made it in this world by having now this doesn't apply to those that are single pregnant moms or single moms, or maybe you're in a relationship where one income isn't enough and you have to have the two, what have you. But I'm talking in terms of the whole feminist movement. I don't see how a woman considers it a great progress to be able to say, oh, now not only do I get to and have to most likely work to survive in a relationship, But I get to be pregnant, go to work feeling like hell, and this doesn't apply to women out there who are going to say you had the most perfect pregnancy. I've never known anybody to have that, but if you feel you have, this doesn't apply. I'm sure. I'm talking to the women who, you had to go to work, you were miserable, you had the morning sickness, you felt terrible, your hormones were going wild, your moods were shot, you were just exhausted and tired, you had to pee every half hour or even sooner sometimes. And then towards the end of your pregnancy, when you're feeling huge and uncomfortable, your back hurts, your feet hurt, your legs hurt, you're in that bathroom constantly, you're just miserable at the end. Well, I don't see how we consider that a great progress to say, I got to go through all that discomfort of pregnancy and have to work. Yay, look what I brought on for myself. I have to go through hell while working. Does he have to? No, he doesn't. If you're in a couple and you're having that baby and you're having to go through all this, he's just going to work as usual. He's just going to do what he normally does. He's not the one having to go through all that you have to go through when you have children. And this kind of bugs me because so many men, I've even heard it when I'm in the mall and I hear young guys, sometimes I'd be sitting there, I bought something to eat and I'm just sitting there and I hear young men, oh hell no, she's not going to stay home. I don't know who she thinks she is. She's not going to be some lazy bitch at home. I've heard them use those words. And that disgusts me because anybody who knows, who has been an at-home mom and at-home wife, knows that there's always something to do. There's always something to take care of. And I don't get it how these guys think that staying home and taking care of your home, making it a comfortable, wonderful place to be, your sanctuary. And I'm talking to women who really put the effort into it, not the ones that you hear about who are lazy and do nothing, literally do nothing. I'm talking the ones who have a nice, clean home, who are always doing something to beautify it, to make it comfortable, cozy, who like to make those meals for their family and have that togetherness of sitting down and having dinner at the end of the day, who like being there for their children, that sort of thing. That's what I'm talking about. I don't see how any man or young guy could think that staying at home is not a job, is not something that requires a lot of dedication and commitment and sacrifice. Because anybody who has stayed at home full time knows there's a lot of sacrifice in it, in the way that you know you're not out there, associating with adults all the time the way a working person is, and sometimes that can get really hard. That can be very difficult when you're at home with these kids. They're sick, they're in bad moods, they're whatever. We all know what kids go through, cleaning up the messes and dealing with what you deal with all day long. It is a very difficult job. And so I look at it and I think to myself, isn't it amazing how we fought so hard to get where we are, in the workplace, to work where we want, to basically to attempt to have a job that any man could have, whatever. But yet at the same time, how many of you still come home at the end of the day and you're usually the one who does the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, taking care of those kids, getting them bathed, getting them to bed? How many of you still do all that? And the guy maybe, and again, this is not for those of you who have, the perfect life where the husband does everything with you and with the kids and all that. I'm talking about the average household where most men don't do all of that, where the woman still comes home from work and has to cook that meal for dinner and has to get those kids, make sure they're doing their homework, make sure they're bathed, or if they're real young, if they're babies, feed them, change them. They still have to do all that after a day of work. So I don't see that as a great accomplishment. I'm being honest. I'm just stating it how I feel. I really don't. What I see is that women created more hardship and more work for themselves, um, by having to do all of this on top of having to go to work all the time. And you also have to stop and think. Pregnancies don't always go perfect. Children being born aren't always perfect. There are pregnancies where you have very many difficulties. Sometimes life-threatening things happen. Sometimes you end up having to be in bed for your pregnancy. Sometimes you're just so sick you can barely get out of bed. I know, I've been there. And and I look at that and I think, well, okay, if you guys say you're in a relationship right now and you're planning on having kids or more kids, um, what's going to happen if something does happen to you? If say you become very ill, or one of your children is born that has some kind of a handicap or a health problem that you have to be with them all the time? Are you going to be able to survive on the one income? That's something you younger girls really need to think about if you're going to get married or start a relationship with somebody who you eventually want to have kids with. You need to really stop and think about this. It is not just cut and dried. You don't just say, well, we both have a career, we're doing great, we have lots of money, I'll have a baby, I'll get, the baby will be fine, I'll go back to work in a couple months after the baby's born, everything's great. Well, you know what, life doesn't always work that perfectly. And after my last baby was born, I was so sick, I hemorrhaged, and never dreamed in my life that would happen to me. I gave birth to that baby in half an hour thinking everything was great because my other births were like 20 hours long of labor. This one came in about half an hour. Everything was fantastic. I'm holding my brand new baby. Next thing I know, the nurse comes and lifts up my cover to check my bleeding, see how I'm doing. Well, because I had had an epidural, I didn't feel anything. I thought she was going to drop of a heart attack. All of a sudden she yelled. The doctors come flying in. Man, next thing I know, they're ripping that baby out of my arms. It was unbelievable. I had doctors surrounding me, nurses, they were shoving me back. They got that bed and they were flying me down the hallway back into the room there to the delivery room. And I didn't know what was going on until the nurse said, "I'm sorry, but you are hemorrhaging severely, severely. We got to take care of this now." I mean, they were like flipping out. Next thing I know, I wake up, didn't even recognize anybody. Apparently, they had given me a drug that keeps you from remembering what happened. They said they didn't even have time to put me out. That they had to get in there, literally put his hand up inside of me and press on my uterus because it wouldn't contract, and that's why I was hemorrhaging. Well, they were luckily able to stop it before I needed a transfusion, so I was very lucky. But I had no clue, and when she lifted that blanket, the blood was just pouring off of the bed. It was dripping right there, and my then husband, about had a heart attack. All I remember is seeing my baby being ripped out of my arms, being taken away while they're rolling me away. Well, after that situation, believe me, I was sick for a very long time, very weak, very sick. I had severe back problems. I was just a mess. And the same with my first child. They told me I was going to abort the baby within 48 hours when I was in my third month because I got the pneumonia and my kidneys, for who knows what reason, just stopped working. I mean, I was in the hospital and they told me and my husband, "You're going to abort the baby. It can't survive what just happened." Well, that baby survived, and he's now a very healthy 37-year-old man. But again, after he was born, I could not get out of bed. And back then, there was no I didn't have anything to have babies, to give birth until my fifth child. All the others, I didn't. Like a fool. I wish I would have. But I didn't. So the first one, I'm telling you what, I was so sick and so weak, I used to faint. As soon as I would stand up after giving birth, I would faint. I would just drop right where I was. And the doctors told me it was just too hard on your body, for whatever reason, blah, blah, blah. So it was months before I was back to normal. So guys, had I not been with two men who could take care of the situation, who knows what life would have been. My first marriage where I had my first child, he was in the military. We were overseas in Germany. My second one, he had a good, career, a good profession. He was able to take care of everything. So you girls need to stop and think. Yeah, you might be liberated now to where you can go do whatever you want, but you also have to use your head in terms of what will happen when you decide to have a family if something occurs. And don't give me that, "Oh, I'm not going to think negative, blah, blah, blah." This is the reality. Tons and tons of pregnancies don't go without a hitch. They have a lot of complications. Tons of births have complications. Tons of children are born with complications. And are you going to be in a position with the person you're with to take care of that? Or if you decide to be a single mom, say you decide you haven't found the right guy and I'm going to have a baby anyway, have you stopped to think about what that's going to do if some complications arise that are serious? You need to start thinking about these kind of things, you younger girls. You really do. Because we've let men off the hook. And I don't care how it sounds, but it is true. We've let men off of the hook, okay? They now walk around with the mentality of, "Oh, you're just a lazy bitch if you stay at home. You don't do anything. I'm not going to have some lazy woman staying at home." Those kind of men, I could just wring their necks because they haven't done the job, so they don't know what it is. They just automatically criticize. So you need to stop and think what you're getting yourself into. And I guess it angers me because when I like sometimes I'll go to the store and I see this woman out to here and I can see she is miserable, the clerk or whatever, even in an office when I used to work in an office, and they're out to here and I can see them so miserable. I can see them so uncomfortable. And I'm thinking to myself, is this what we worked for too? Was to make our life more miserable, harder than it already was? By letting men off of the hook, saying, having them tell us, we, the women who have to go through having that baby, the pregnancy, the birth, the recuperating, and who knows, maybe when you look at that baby, you say, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to take care of this baby. I couldn't do it. Are you in a position with the kind of partner who will say, no problem, we can handle it with just my income? Or are you with somebody who says, oh, hell no, you're going to work. I don't care if you have to leave that baby in 4 weeks, you're going to work. You need to think about that because so many things can come up. And I say that when I say about the, having it all. Yeah, we're having it all right. We're having to do everything. We are letting men off the hook more now than ever. I mean, think about it. Before, when he had to work, he had the responsibility. I have to work to support my wife and children that we may have. He had a solid responsibility. Now, it's like, oh, well, you know what? She has to work too, so whatever. I don't have to worry about this. So they're kind of let off the hook. Like, okay, it's just not my responsibility anymore. Which to me is kind of sad because it has made men, from what I see now, I see men being pretty damn I hate to, I don't know, the word I would find to use is they're kind of irresponsible. I guess you could say, look at them. I mean, look at how they are nowadays. A woman has a baby, he decides he wants out, he walks away. Boom, it's over for him. He doesn't have to worry about it. That's pretty sad, but it's a pretty commonplace now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mentality that they were raised in, with that period there where women are showing, I can do everything. I don't need a man. I can take care of myself. So the men said, great, then do it. Okay, then do it. Take care of yourself. It's sort of backfired, ladies. And I don't mean to criticize the feminist movement. Thank God for it, or we would be stuck forever. But at the same time, ladies, let's get real. It is hard. Any woman that I have known that has worked, they don't tell me, oh, when I come home, my husband has dinner ready and he takes care of the kids and he does the laundry and he does the cooking and cleaning and he does it. I don't hear that. I still hear the same old, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. After work, I had to do this, I had to do that. So I don't know where the great benefit was in terms of us women. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's great that we can work when we want to, where we want to, as much as, can be nowadays. But at the same time, ladies, I just don't see how that is something to look at and go, wow, great. Now I can do it all. I have it all. I do it all. Well, he's still doing what he used to do before, except with less responsibility because now he knows I don't have it all on my shoulders. She's going to take part of that. I don't have to worry it all by myself anymore. She's going to take part of that. So I don't see how that is easier. I bet if it was turned around and men had to get pregnant to have babies, I bet they'd be viewing it a little bit differently. If they had to be going through this 9-month period of discomfort and what have you, they'd be thinking a little bit differently about, yeah, well, this is great to have it all. I'm sorry, ladies. I really do feel that this is one area where I think it kind of backfired. I know for me personally, I thank goodness I was able to stay home with my pregnancies. I am so grateful. I think in the days I was so exhausted. I mean, it took energy just to get up and go to the bathroom. I think of the days when the nausea was so bad, even the smell of food made me want to die. I think of the days when towards the end of the pregnancy, my feet are swollen, my back is hurting, my hips are hurting. I was in that bathroom constantly. I think of all that discomfort I went through, and I think, oh my God, I am so grateful that I got to be home because, and I was grateful that I had husbands who understood it. My second husband, especially with the next 4 kids, I'll tell you what, he was, I have to give him credit where credit was due, although we got divorced. Um, he was very compassionate towards me when I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, he would do everything for me. He would come home and he'd see that I was shot. I was just shot, miserable, and what have you. And my moods, of course, were whoa. One minute I was, hi honey, I love you. The next, God, I hate you. Get out of my sight. That's the way it was. And thankfully, he was very understanding, and he would do that. And as we continued to have children, he would come home from work, and he would help me tremendously. I was very lucky in that respect. He would help with the cooking. He got to learn to cook very well. He would, start doing some laundry and doing little things to help me a lot. Even though I was home all day, he knew that what I was going through being pregnant, as well as taking care of other children as we had them, he knew that that was a job that didn't end. And there was one period in my life when I had four of the kids were still at home, and I'd gotten a severe illness. I had to donate blood. I was going to have a hysterectomy, and they told me to donate my own blood in case I hemorrhaged. So I did. Well, within 24 hours, I was sick as a dog, didn't know what was going on, and within 48 hours, I was hospitalized. Well, it turned out that I had gotten strep throat from my grandson, but I didn't know it. I thought I just had a little sore throat. And that strep invaded my whole body, and I almost died. They literally sent me home to die on morphine. Literally. They said she's going to die. And because my daughter, who knew a girl at school, she said, I know this girl. Her mom is a doctor, and her dad's a lawyer. They just live 2 houses away. So I was like, so my husband ran over there. She came to look at me. She's a homeopathic doctor. And she said, oh my God, she's got rheumatic fever. I will bring her back. Don't worry. And she did. It took 4 months, but the doctor sent me home to die. In that 4 months, my husband took time off to take care of me. He took those 4 months off because of the job he had and the length of time he had been there. He was able to do that and still get covered. So for those 4 months that he was home, taking care of me, because I actually got to a state of where I was like an infant. My joints locked up. I couldn't move. The pain felt like somebody had a hot poker in every part of my body. I wanted to die. I used to ask him to kill me because the pain was so severe. I just wanted to die. It was horrible. But he took care of me on top of the 4 kids for those 4 months. Every day and night he was there. Well, I'll tell you what, when that was over, the first thing he said was, I cannot wait to get back to work. My God, how do you do this? I was like, da-da, now you understand. Now you really understand why I'm so exhausted, why I'm so tired, why, it's a difficult job. After those 4 months, he said, I could have never, ever been a stay-at-home dad. That was unbelievable that it never ends, it never stops. It's just go, go, go in one direction or the other. I was like, yeah, that's right. So I was very lucky that I was able to stay home with my children, till they were grown. When I got divorced with my last marriage, my youngest was 13 at the time, but, he was more than capable of taking care of himself in the sense of, he didn't, need baby care type of stuff. He was a pretty independent kid. So he did really well. So had I not been in that situation, my life would have been destroyed. I would have been ruined if I'd have been with somebody who couldn't, who couldn't carry that load when I had those children, because I did have difficult pregnancies. So you young girls out there, I want you to stop and think what you're getting yourself into with the man you're getting yourself involved with that you may want to have children with someday. It is not materialistic and is not being a gold digger to stop and think. Now, if something happens to me or to our child where I cannot work, will this person be able to take care of us, or will our family completely fall apart because they don't have my income? You need to stop and think about that. That is a very, very serious thing in nature. It is not being a gold digger. It is not being materialistic and money hungry. It is being realistic. Realistic that, yeah, you can have it all until something goes wrong. And then can you survive on the one income if you're in a couple? This is mainly geared toward women who are in a couple, and you're thinking, well, I just have it all. I got the job. I got the career. I got the guy. I got the house. I got the cars. I got the kids. I'm going to have it all. Well, I hope you do, if that's what you want. But I think you need to be realistic in thinking, do I really want to have it all? Do I want to? I had one girl write me, and she told me, she said, after watching that mom versus working mom versus stay at home, she goes, I don't want to do to my children what I lived through. And this is her words, not mine, so don't go, yelling at me about, working moms. This is her words. She said, I am 28 years old, and I do not want to live the life, I do not want any children of mine to live the life that I had. She said, all I remember is my mother being exhausted and tired and getting, my mom and dad getting up at the crack of dawn, and then my mom getting us ready for either the daycare or the babysitter or school, whichever it was, depending on their age. And she says, that's all I remember. And then I remember being picked up after they got off work. And I remember the exhaustion, and my mother so tired, so worn out, because there she went to do the meal. Then she would do some laundry. Then she'd be helping us with homework. And I'm thinking to myself, it pretty much hasn't changed. The guys aren't as involved as they should be. And this girl told me, she said, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want to have it all. If I get married, if I end up with a man, I do want to be able to stay home and create that home, create that comfortable house, create the place where we call it our sanctuary. I want to stay home and take care of my children. I want to be there for them. I don't want somebody else raising them, she said. I don't want the tension, she says, that I saw in my household growing up, where both of them were working, both of them were so stressed out it was unbelievable. And she goes, and I think back to a cousin of hers. She said, my cousin, her mom, my aunt stayed home. And she said, I saw the difference. She goes, yeah, it was, working at home is a hard job as well. But she was able to offset his day from being on the job, and he was able to offset her day from being at home. They kind of, it was kind of a balance there. And she said, when both my parents got home, they were both so stressed from work that they could barely tend, excuse me, they could barely tend to what they needed to at home. And she said, I don't want that. I do not want what I saw my mother go through. And she said, and I remember when she was pregnant with my little brother. Oh my God, she was miserable. She would get up in the morning, she didn't feel well, she's getting ready for work, but they couldn't survive on just her dad's income. And she says, and I remember my mother towards the end of the pregnancy, she said, oh my God, she was miserable. Sometimes she would just break down crying from how bad she felt, but she still had to work. And she said, I don't want this. I don't want that life. She said, I thought it was horrible. I don't want any part of that. And she goes, and I wish you would touch on that subject, because she said, it really bothers me. She goes, I've got some friends right now who are pregnant, because this girl's in her 20s. And she goes, I got some friends who are pregnant and they're working. And she says, oh my God, when I talk to them, I feel so bad for them. She said, I had one friend calling me crying and crying because she felt so bad. She was at she was at that stage in her pregnancy where where you start, where the backaches start and the discomfort, where you can't get comfortable in any position. You're like, oh my God, I can't get comfortable. She said this friend would just break down crying that she can't, at work she was just dying. She was so miserable. And she goes, as I watched this, I thought to myself, I don't want this. I do not, there is no way that I want to put myself through this. And she goes, well, I watch her husband, who doesn't have to go through all this. He's excited as all get about this new child coming to their life. And she says, I look at my friend and I think, poor thing, oh my God, she's going through hell while she's going to work. He's just going to work as always, and then he gets a child out of it at the end of all the misery that this woman goes through. And when I say misery, ladies, come on, let's be honest. How many of you went through a pregnancy and you didn't have something that made it very difficult? I don't care if it was just morning sickness, which is very difficult, or the discomfort, or having to pee constantly, or being so bloated, or just being miserable, uncomfortable, you know what I'm saying? How many of you didn't go through that in a pregnancy? Well, this girl was saying, after seeing my friend go through this, I thought, there is no way I'm going to put myself through that to say, I have it all. I've got it all. She said, I'm not going to do it. And I wrote her back and I told her, I said, then don't. Find yourself a guy where you know that, okay, so you first get married and you're working, that's great. Save up some money, what have you. Continue your career. But also get it up front with him. Make sure before you even marry the guy or move in together permanently with the guy, that if you guys decide to have kids, You want to be the one who stays home. Can he support you? If he says he's not going to go along with it, well, then you got the wrong guy for what you want. Go after what you want. Don't let anybody make you feel that you have to have it all in order to make it in this world. You don't have to have it all. However, you do have to be wise enough to marry or get involved with somebody where they are financially stable. Okay, I'm going to say it, and I don't care how it sounds. Let's start putting a little responsibility back on those men's shoulders out there, to where whatever happens, even in the case of a divorce, if you get divorced, heaven forbid, and that's a negative thought, but still, it happens. Are you with somebody who's going to be able to provide enough child support to help you out with your children? Or are you with somebody who's so irresponsible that he's like, screw it, I don't care, I'm out of here, divorce, done, see you later? You need to really think long and hard about this having it all, ladies. You really do. You need to start being more responsible for yourselves by picking out guys that you know, or partners that you know, are going to be responsible for a family. And I know that might sound old-fashioned again, but I mean it. It is not them who has to go through all the hell and the difficulties of pregnancies. And it is difficult. I don't want to hear anybody telling me, oh, pregnancy is wonderful. If you had that, great. But most women don't go through pregnancy without a lot of discomfort at some point. And then to have to be worrying about getting up to go to work, or working late at night. Like one night I went to Walmart. It was a late night, and I went there. It was like 12:30 at night. There's this woman, my heart just broke. She's out to here. I mean, she looked like she was going to have that baby any minute. And she's standing there, and she was just, I could just see her just dying in misery, like, oh my gosh. And I thought, this poor girl having to go through all of this while she is going through what she's going to bring a new life into this world. So there you go, guys. You look at it and you say, I have it all, but guess what? You just made it 100 times easier for that man, when he doesn't have to go through all that, to have children, okay? If he wants a child, you get to do all the work on top of the work on top of the household. Where is that? To me, that's not progress. To me, that, if you want the truth, it may sound silly to some of you, but I'm going to say it the way I feel it. And remember, this is my opinion, so don't get all snarky and give rude remarks. This is my opinion. To me, that made a woman even more of a slave to a family. At least before, when she was at home, she could run her day. I'm going to do the laundry at this time. I'm going to do this. You can kind of make your day the best that you could. But not now. You got to go to work and put up with everybody telling you what to do, and then you come home from work, and then you have to do all that you have to do at home. And then on top of that, you have a husband or a partner to deal with. So I don't see how that became a big plus, that we have to do it all. Not only do you have it all, but you have to do it all. So in my view, that just kind of put us back even further. That's just the way I look at it. Because I know that if I had to work when I was pregnant, going through all that I did, and then taking care of those kids as well, I think I would have freaking lost my mind, to tell you the truth. I would have lost my mind. Because there were so many times during those days when I thank goodness I was at home, because I was so exhausted from taking care of that baby who was sick or crying or teething. And then I would lay him down for a nap, and I would just collapse on the couch like, oh my God, I can't move. I'm exhausted. I can't imagine having had to go through that, go through a work day, and then come home to that, because that's the reality of it. You don't get to say, well, I'm off work at 5, so now you kids go in the room and take care of yourself. You don't get to do that. You have to keep taking care of them. And like I said, the majority of women I've known, they're still carrying most of the load. So I don't see that was the greatest thing in the world. Yes, it is wonderful that a woman can work if she wants to, as long as she wants to. But I don't think it's wonderful that a man expects her to work if they're going to have children. If a woman wants to, of course, that's her choice. But I mean wants to, not feel that she has to, because society now dictates that women should work. They should contribute. Well, you know what? A woman who stays home and takes care of her family and her home is contributing a hell of a lot in making a great place for that family to be. Okay, and that's the other thing this young girl wrote me. She told me, she said, I think about my household And it just never felt comfortable. It never felt like we were family. Everybody was always so stressed. And she goes, and then I'd go to my cousin's house where my aunt stayed home. And she goes, and I see the difference. You know, my aunt was over there. She, old fashioned as that may sound, which I see nothing wrong with old fashioned, ladies. Um, she goes, I could see my aunt. You know, I'd go over there. She was making a cake. Call old fashioned. I don't care what you will. She was making a nice roast for the whole family, cooking it all day. She was doing this. She was doing that. She was fixing up the house. She was doing something, making it a very comfortable sanctuary for her family to gather and to be in. And she said, that's what I want. I don't want what I saw in my household where everybody was always stressed, worried about work the next day, getting ready for work the next day, going to meetings. Weekends they were exhausted, but that's when they decided to do this, this, and that because they didn't have time during the week. She goes, I do not want that life. I don't want it at all. And I'm with her. You know, I mean, if you want to work, well, then more power to you. I have nothing against that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I'm with her in this sense that I thank goodness I was home. And I was one of those wives who I really worked hard as a housewife. You know, people would walk into our home, and you know, we had 5 kids, so finances were kind of strapped sometimes, you know. But our home, people would walk in and think that we were, you know, rich. They would think we were absolutely rich, and why? Because I would go to flea markets, thrift stores, garage sales. My husband would go with me too. And I would find all kinds of things. I would refinish them, repaint them, redo them. He would change something on them, like knobs or what have you. We would change things out, fix things up to where my house looked like $1,000,000. It really did. And it was all thrift store, flea market, and garage sale type stuff. But I redid it. I did 90% of it. He helped with the, you know, more mechanic stuff of it if it needed something replaced or whatever. But I worked hard. I was constantly doing things to make our home look beautiful, and people would walk in and go, oh my gosh, your house is so comfortable and beautiful. I was proud of that. I was very proud of having people walk into my home and feel so comfortable. I remember this one person said, I didn't even want to leave your home. I didn't want to leave your house because I loved being in it. I had people telling me that all the time, that they just loved being in the house. Now, to me, I'm sorry. I don't care how old-fashioned you want to call that, but to me, that was a wonderful feeling to know that my home was comfortable for people to be in, and that my children were, you know, that I was there for my kids all the time. That's me. I am very grateful for that, and I can't even imagine having to do all that I did as a mother and a wife after a job. I just, you know, although my husband did help out, I still did the majority. Okay, I did the majority because I was a stay-at-home mom. That was my job. But he did understand that I don't get to get off at 5 o'clock and say I'm done. Far from it. My day didn't end until I hit the bed. So when he would get off of work, he would help me. He'd do little things here and there, you know, and it made a big difference. But I can't imagine having to have had it all. Work, kids, husband, household. No way, thank you, ma'am. No thanks. I wanted no part of that, and I was lucky that I found somebody who felt the same way. So I'm making this because there are a lot of women out there who I know in my heart, that I know that they know in their hearts, they wish they could have the life where they were able to stay home and be that wife at home or mother at home. But society makes them feel like, well, if you don't work, you're worthless. Well, screw society. You do what's best for you. And you find a partner who agrees with that so you can fulfill that part. I mean, it's my husband, he liked working. He liked his job. He was good at his job. He did a good job. I liked my job, which is being at home with my family and home, and I did a good job, and we were content with that. Okay, we were content with that. And I'm making this video because women walking around saying, "Oh well, we have it all." I think a lot of times they don't stop and look at it like it did kind of backfire. You damn right you have it all. You've got it all. You've got the job, the kids, the husband, the upkeep. I mean, you've got everything now. And then especially for you women who have husbands or partners who work a lot, who are gone all the time on the job or traveling or whatever, you really have it all, don't you? You've really got it all. You get to go to the job and then come back and take care of everything while he's at meetings or he's out of town or he's whatever. Yeah, ladies, you definitely have it all. And I'm going to say it that way. You have it all. And I'm sorry, but I I would tell any young girl today that if she doesn't want what she saw growing up, like this one wrote me, and not just her, I had several write me and tell me that they don't want what they had growing up. And these are girls in their 20s and 30s, so they grew up in that period where the working mom was it. That was it. That's when you were something. Well, I think a lot of the young girls are realizing that maybe it's not the greatest thing to have it all, that it's pretty damn hard to have it all, because the man still doesn't have to go through getting pregnant and going through the whole birthing and recuperating and the whole process. They don't have to go through all that. And think about the women out there who maybe you're having trouble having children and you're having to go through fertility treatments and through all this other hardship, but you still have to go to work. Okay? I'm sorry. I just don't see that as the greatest progress for women. I see it kind of as a throwback, even worse than we were. Because at least before, we had a place in society where we had a very valuable job. We took care of our home and our kids and our husband and our lives. And then he worked, and it kind of balanced each other. And don't get me wrong, I know back in the way back, the woman just kept working until she dropped at night. And that part needs to change. Yes, a man does need to contribute more when he gets off of work. You don't get to get off at 5. Why the hell should he get off at 5? Why the hell should he walk in the door after a day of work and say, I'm done? While you're saying, oh, I got to get dinner. Oh, I got to throw some laundry in. Oh, I got to make sure the kids do the homework. Oh, my God, I got to bathe the baby. I got to make the formula. I got to breastfeed, whatever. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. That just doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. And like right now, my daughter is at home, and I'm so glad that she's at home taking care of her 2 kids. She initially started by taking her first one to a daycare. That didn't work out. I was like, no, So they had their second child. She's a full-time stay-at-home mom, and I am so thrilled. She's got a wonderful partner. He is a hard-working young man. He brings in a good income. They live in a nice house in a very nice part of town, and they have a nice 4-bedroom home, and they live in a very nice area. So he works hard to make sure that he supports my daughter and their 2 children. And I can't even tell you how much I appreciate him for that. And it makes me so happy to see my daughter, being able to be there with her kids and do what she needs to through the day. And then when he comes home, he's a part of it. So I'm very happy to see that. I can't even tell you how happy I am. She's my only daughter. I had 4 sons and 1 girl. And I'm really thrilled that my daughter got to have the choice. You see, it goes back to choice, ladies. We fought to have a choice. We didn't fight to say, okay, society dictates you have to work, now you're going to work come hell or high water. No, we were supposed to fight to have a choice. And that choice should be yours, ladies. Since you are the ones who have to get pregnant and have those babies, and then maybe look at that baby and say, oh, no way am I going to leave that thing. I'm taking care of that baby. That little thing there is just my life now. You're going to look at that child and go, no way, I'm not leaving it. So you need to have the choice. And the only way you're going to have that choice that we fought for is if you choose a partner who is willing and able to support you and your children that you have together. He has to be able to agree to that 100%. It cannot be, well, I don't know, we'll see. That won't work because he might change his mind. You need to be more picky, and you need to be more responsible in terms of thinking ahead for your children as well. What life are they going to have? If you have 2 incomes now and you have a baby and something happens, or you just decide you don't want to go to work, or even something as simple as a car accident can change your life forever. Are you being picky enough to have the kind of partner that can pick up that slack should something happen? You need to think that way, ladies, because it happens every day. Every day a woman has a horrendous pregnancy or birth. Every day a child is born with something terribly wrong, or something that needs to have one of the parents at home. Usually the mother chooses, which I think is wonderful. But are you making a choice? Are you making the decision to where you can have that choice? You see, ladies, that's what bugs me. I don't like the fact that women feel they don't have a choice now because society has dictated that if you're not a working woman outside of your home, you're lazy and you're what have you. Well, those people are damn idiots. That's all I'm going to say. They are idiots. And I could smack each one of them 10 times over because it is a hard job being a stay-at-home wife and mom. Very hard job. Just like their job. They have a job that requires a lot. Stay-at-home moms and wives have a job that requires a hell of a lot too. On top of having to get pregnant and have a child. So they don't have to go through that, ladies. So the whole idea here is, are you involved with somebody where you do have a choice? Since you are the one who's going to have that baby and carry that baby and bring that baby home and recuperate. You're the one who's going to go through all that, ladies. And even if you're a woman who, let's say you couldn't carry the child yourself and you're going to have a surrogate child, okay? Or a surrogate mother. All right? So what? So you get that baby home. Who's to say that everything is going to go perfectly? Babies are born fine, and then all of a sudden something is found wrong with them 2-3 months later, and they require somebody there all the time. Are you going to be able to help in that situation? Are you going to be able to say, oh my gosh, no, I need to be with my baby. I have to take care of my baby. Or are you going to be in a situation where you can't be there, and then what? You're going to hire somebody to pay them all the hard money, all the money you're earning, working like a dog to earn. So you're going to hire somebody to go take care of that child? That doesn't make sense to me at all. So there you go again. Are you making a decision to where you will have a choice, ladies? That was the whole idea of the feminist movement, to have a choice. How it got turned around to where if you don't work, you're lazy, God only, I don't know where that came from. It's insanity in my eyes, total insanity in my eyes. So you need to think about all of that. You young girls especially who are, thinking of settling down and having a family, you need to be serious with yourself. You need to stop the whole falling in love and fluttery butterflies and, oh, he's so cute stuff. And you need to start using your head and saying, what will my future be with this man? Not just today. Not today because I'm so in love and, oh, we're going to get married. You need to think about the future and what it holds for you in the event that there can't be two incomes. You just don't know what can happen in life. I sure as hell didn't think that with my first pregnancy, I was going to end up in the hospital. I was going to end up almost dying. I didn't think that, I would be bedridden because of pneumonia and a kidney failure. I never thought that was going to happen. I was one of the healthiest people around, but it did. And the same goes for the other ones. I never thought I was going to have severe morning sickness like I did, but God knows there were days I just laid there thinking, oh my God, am I going to puke in the next minute or not? If I'd had to work, I couldn't have. I wouldn't have been able to work. Bottom line, I couldn't have worked. I'd have had to go, I guess, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done if we were counting on both our incomes to get through life. So you need to stop and think about that seriously, ladies. Are you setting yourself up to have a choice, or like we fought for, or are you setting yourself up to where, come hell or high water, you got to work no matter what happens in your life? And ladies, come on. Let's quit acting like we're not different than men. We are different than men. We are the ones who get pregnant. We are the ones who go through all that, not them. They don't go through it. They get to stand back while we go through all that, and then we pop out that baby, and they stand there, I have a son, I have a daughter, oh, this is wonderful. Well, guess what? You're the one laying there going, oh my God, I thought I was going to die. And you're going to be worrying about going back to work right away because you have to help support your family? No, ladies. You're supposed to have a choice. That's what we fought for, a choice. And bottom line is if you don't have that choice, then I don't see what we fought for, because if men are going to be so lazy now, as I see seems to be pretty much the case the majority of time, the younger men, like, oh, no, like I said earlier, you're not going to stay home. Why should I support you? Why should I be the only one working? Well, to me, that's not a man, okay? And I don't care how old-fashioned I sound to some people out there. This is my view. As I said, we all have our views. My view is any man, young man, older man, whatever man, who says that a woman staying home is not valuable, he's not worth calling a husband or a boyfriend. He's not worth anything in my eyes. Because any man who's decent knows, like my husband knew, I worked hard, taking care of the home and the family. I worked damn hard. He saw the exhaustion. He saw. And the thing of it is, too, the one thing that he mentioned one time, he says, the thing that is really sad, he goes, when I get sick at work, like one time he had to have his appendix out, another time, just kidding, the flu, whatever. When he got sick, he got to take off work, come home, and recuperate and get well while I took care of everything. Well, guess what? When I got sick, guess what? I didn't get to just stop and have somebody else take care of everything. He still had to go to work. He still had to work to support the family. So I didn't have the luxury of saying, oh, I'm taking off work for the next week because I have a flu. I still had to take care of my kids and my home and my family. And he recognized that and said, man, I couldn't do it. I remember one time when he caught a flu, he says, as I lay here in bed, I think, oh my God, if I had to keep taking care of everything like you always do, I would freaking die. He said, I would die. I couldn't take it. Well, ladies, we go through a lot. We have a lot to go through. And I think it's time we realize that saying that we have it all, you're damn right, we do have it all. You do. I don't. My kids are grown and gone, and I got to stay home. Except for the first one, I had to work for 5 years, and that's when I said no more. Unless I can stay home, I'll never do that again. That was me. My choice. I got to have that choice because I chose somebody who agreed with me that staying home would be great for us and our kids and our family. I got the choice. And that's what I love knowing, is that I had the choice. No one was telling me I had to do it a certain way. And that's where I feel very empowered that I got to do that. No man was telling me, oh, you're going to stay home. I knew what I wanted after having to work with the child, and I went after that. I found the kind of person who did want the same thing I did, so I got that choice because he agreed with it. So ladies, to me, that is progress, to be able to say, my choice is this. Do you agree with it? If not, see you later. I'll find somebody who does. Because once again, it's not them who goes through all that a woman goes through to have children, to bring children into a relationship. It's not them who has those, for those women who have the strong maternal urges, I guess you could say, and they see that baby and they say, oh, there is no way I'm leaving this baby. No way. They have, if they're smart, they choose a guy where they can make that choice. The choice to go to work and leave the child somewhere else, or the choice to stay home and take care of the child themselves. That's the choice that I think we should focus on, that we fought for. Okay, guys, you know what I'm saying. That's what it's all about. And you can call me old-fashioned. I don't care. That's all right. But for me personally, I was very grateful that I stayed home. I was very thankful that I got to stay home and take care of my kids. I didn't want somebody else raising them. With my first child, it was my parents who took care of them while I worked for those 5 years before I got remarried. My own parents were taking care of my son. They're his grandparents. But it still devastated me to leave him. I was one of those moms. It was like, I cannot leave my child. I'm not going to do it. And I would cry. I'd be crying on my way to work. I would be crying when, I would leave him in the morning and he's, Mommy, Mommy. I would cry, I was like, oh, I don't want to leave my little boy. But I had to because I was divorced. And I look at it now and I think, boy, was I glad the second time around that I knew I won't go through this again, and I found somebody who agreed so that I could have the choice, ladies. So the whole thing about this video is, you say, I hear so many things on TV, well, we get to have it all. And I especially hate it when I hear people, okay, this is what pisses me off that influences younger women. You hear stars up there, celebrities, and then you hear the stupid people interviewing them. Oh my God, how do you do it? Being a movie star and having a husband and children. Gee, I don't know. How do they do it? Let's see. They have 2 or 3 nannies. They have a cook. They have a maid. They have a chauffeur. They have everything at their feet with a snap of a finger. Gosh, how do they do it? That must be difficult. I bet their toughest day is, let's see. I don't like that housekeeper. I think I'll have to get another one. Darn. Oh my gosh. Well, those people up there influencing, when I hear them up there, oh, well, you just have to learn to balance it, and you have to, you got to devote your time to your children when you get off work and this and that. Well, guess